or monoculture or grassland alone, combined with energy and yield production, is much higher. It is not 1+1, but it is 1 plus 80%. So you can have 180% of land equivalent ratio of improvement combining both of them. And you can see that even from a theoretical point of view, this has been demonstrated that the evapotranspiration it is has a double use when it is under the PV panels. It is to increase the PV panels efficiency, because we are cooling the PV panels and we are reducing the losses for the thermal losses, while at the same time we are optimizing the humidity in the area of the crops and optimizing the soil moisture. So there are other opportunities that comes with innovative designs, where we, in some places, as this one that is a demonstrator in Mali and Gambia, where we can even use the PV panels to collect the rainfall water, and this is very useful for these communities that do not have clean water accessibility. So there is a win-win solution for PV and to go towards a sustainable transition, but also to improve the crops, because the crops below the PV panels will encounter a better environment to grow and to have a better yield. And at the same time, we are reducing the water consumption. So, oh, it is not the right one. Okay, no problem. So it's okay. No, it's okay. There was the other one, but okay, I can speak about that. So there is one slide missing, but no problem. It's my fault. I share very late. So in Kerry, we have a 35,000 square meters facility, and we are building exactly this kind of concept here, where we are combining solar PV panels, bifacial technology, with trackers, where we are tracking the sun to optimize electricity production, while at the same time we are in the phase of selecting now the best crops to be demonstrated in open land. Why we are doing that? So in Qatar, the harvesting season is is reduced. So due to the weather conditions, in summer in particular, we have a very hot summer with a few months very humid. So this stresses a lot the crops. So what we are aiming is to have, instead of having a 6-month harvesting season, which is what we have more or less now, is extend 1 month before and 1 month later, and to have 8 to 9 months. And there has been, we have done theoretical calculations that have shown that we can do so not only for the most easy plants, that can be tomato, but also for other plants that can be grown outside. So this is one of the pilot projects that we have in our outdoor test facility in Kerry, but we are partnering with some farmers in Qatar. In particular, because in North Qatar, the many farms are very far from the grid, and they run in diesel generators. So there is an interest from the farmers to combine these two benefits to green their production and to go from a diesel generator electricity produced to a solar PV electricity produced that at the same time will contribute to reduce their water, because they do not have clean water accessible, and the wells in Qatar, unfortunately, many of them are depleted, are highly depleted with infiltration from the sea, and the water is a little bit salty, and they need still desalination on site. So they can run all their facilities with PV, and at the same time, while they are reducing the water consumption, we have seen an increase in the yield of the crops. There is a second project that I had another slide, but I will not show. It is vertical PV. So up to this moment, the previous discussion was based in over the crops PV. But when you have vertical, you can allow to grow alfalfa. Alfalfa is one of the biggest problems in the region because we are importing most of our production. So if we are able to provide solutions for Qatar and for the region with vertical PV, and I encourage you to take a look to our website where you will see more about this project, vertical PV farming, we are able between the walls of PV to produce alfalfa and to optimize the alfalfa production even in the weather conditions in the region. So just to take home, so if you want to know more about the research activities that we have in Kerry in agrivoltaics, I encourage you to drop me an email and we can have a discussion on it. But it is for you to take home, it is electricity generation where it is not accessible via grid. It is one of the things that agrivoltaic provides to the farmer. There is a great potential to contribute to reduce greenhouse gas emission, and we are stopping this fight between PV developers and farming that are both of them competing for the same land. We are finding a win-win solution for both of them. We have water efficiency and saving and soil recovery, which is something very, very important in desert environment because we are also avoiding desertification. And there is a very important point that I want to mention. It is what we are learning today in this region and in this weather environment. It is something that we are going to see in other countries very soon with the ongoing climatic change. So if you look into, I'm Spanish, so if you look into South Europe, many South Europe countries are seeing an accelerated desertification. And the lessons learned from this region are very important for these countries too. So improved biodiversity, a source of employment for local population, easy light management to shade loving crops where they can really feel, grow and expand very well, protect crops from excess irradiation and strong weather events because we can move the PV panels to protect them from sandstorms, from hail, from other weather events. And of course, I mean, at the end of the day, if there is any failure during the cropping and the harvesting due to drought or aberrant weather conditions, we always are providing an extra income to the farmer due to the PV system because the electricity production is ensured. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Veronica. I am also from Hamad bin Khalifa University as Dr. Veronica, and our next speaker. So for those of you who are new and visiting Doha for the first time, invite you to come visit us in Education City where there are 8 universities and an amazing, unique ecosystem. With that pitch, I invite our next speaker, Dr. Tariq Al-Ansari, innovation, entrepreneur, research expert, to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here with you today. My name is Tariq Al-Ansari from Hamad bin Khalifa University. Okay. So I need not spend much time going into the challenges we face in arid climates and in Qatar. The climate, water security, energy sustainability, unfertile land, etc., etc. And these challenges are not just unique to Qatar, but we all know it's common across many of our member states, you can say. So we at the university, in our college, I'm from the College of Science and Engineering, we cover several dimensions related to, say, food security projects, or enhancing sustainability of food systems, some of which include the production system itself, trying to enhance the sustainability from an energy water perspective, application of intelligence, which was covered extensively in the talks earlier today. Amazing breakthroughs. It was really fascinating for me. The application of AI, machine learning, deep learning, remote sensing. These are some of the areas we cover. Also, conversion of waste from within the food system and from outside the food system into products that can then feed back into the food system also. And ultimately, you need to have sound and effective decision-making frameworks that capture all the complexity in the food system, because there's many different stakeholders with competing objectives, conflicting objectives, in a very uncertain environment. And how you come up with decision-making frameworks that allow us to make the right decisions at the right time. So to better inform decision-making at the policy-making level. So these are some of the areas that we cover, one of which is developing controlled environments, sustainable sustainable greenhouses in this regard. And we put a lot of effort into designing greenhouses for arid climates, because you need to have a controlled environment, especially when the surrounding environment is so uncertain and resources are also scarce. And in this country, water, for example, is a scarce resource. So we look at developing sustainable greenhouses to reduce the carbon footprint, reduce land utilization, reduce water consumption, and to reduce energy utilization, and one step forward, to have sustainability within the energy source itself. So we do extensive work on greenhouse design. So I don't have one particular design I want to show you, but just to show you that the greenhouses that we aim to design are those that can maintain optimum conditions for plant growth throughout the year, produces to be self-sufficient in its water production, and then efficient in the utilization of this water, and to integrate sustainable energy sources where possible. So in this particular example, this greenhouse benefits from a dehumidification system to generate its own water, and uses the groundwater below it, which is scarce, as a cooling medium. So we don't use the groundwater as much. We depend on trying to generate our own water, perhaps from ambient conditions. We do extensive designs in terms of the greenhouses, and we take an approach where we look at the different configurations possible that integrate various power technologies, various cooling systems, and various water systems, including desalination technologies. And we do the thermodynamic feasibility analysis for all the configurations, then take a life cycle approach to look at environmental and economic perspectives for the various configurations. And in this particular example, one of the configurations we found is that the combination of active and passive cooling can be very beneficial for greenhouses. But it's how we do the passive cooling that's very interesting. We can do a combination of shading. We can even bury it underground as a means of passive cooling. So this work is done also by my colleague over here, Yusuf. So if you have any questions, you can ask him. Further on, going into the different configurations, it's the design of the greenhouse itself. We know that light and radiation is an important perspective for plants, but then how do we capture the radiation and light that we need and reflect the light that we don't need? And doing so allows us to control the cooling requirements. So having a greenhouse with a dual function roof to generate its own electricity and to control the radiation going in, we find that we can actually reduce the cooling requirement by more than 25% whilst generating our own electricity. So this was a design recently done at the university. And another angle to controlling, to managing the spectra and the radiation, in addition to the renewable energy PV roof, is to use combination of hybrid nanofluids in order to absorb the heat radiation you want, to influence the heat transfer capabilities of the greenhouse, and to transmit the radiation in the visible region, which actually the plant requires for growth. So even with the integration of nanofluids, we can reduce the cooling load by up to 25%. From an intelligence perspective, we feel that understanding the transpiration requirements of the plant is necessary to optimize the irrigation control. So how we can better predict the transpiration requirements of the plant. So here we developed algorithms to predict this transpiration requirement to help us do irrigation control, but we've integrated or embedded within the transpiration requirement various indices that reflect the plant physiology. And in this case, we use hyperspectra cameras to help us capture these indices and integrate this with the transpiration prediction algorithm. And this helps us make various scenarios. For example, using this algorithm, we calculated that through the integration of CO2 fertilization captured from various other sources, for example, power plants, we can reduce the irrigation requirement in the greenhouse under study by up to 40 to 45%. So this is an interesting example of circular economy and optimizing energy, water, food nexus, capturing waste as CO2 from one power plant, using it in a greenhouse to reduce water consumption. From another angle, we used historical climate data to help us develop a model predictive control for the greenhouse under study. So we took historical data and we were able to develop a control algorithm that helps us reduce energy utilization by 10 to 15%. But even when you build these model predictive control algorithms, there are certain uncertainties which you must consider. So integrating robustness and robust optimization and the MPC, the model predictive control, we can further enhance the energy efficiency, and in this case, we got it to 20%. Another angle of research that we're doing at the university is biochar, which is a very interesting product as an outcome of two things: circular economy, the idea of capturing waste and converting it into value-added product, and using this product itself to enhance the energy, water, food nexus, or the carbon, energy, water nexus, because biochar helps us sequester carbon underground and enhance the quality of the soil. Like in Qatar, as many countries in the world, we have a variety of different wastes from organic waste from a variety of different sources: agriculture waste, manure waste, wood waste, food waste, biosludge. And all these wastes can essentially be converted into a biochar, which is essentially a soil conditioner. And it helps, this biochar, the soil conditioner, helps us improve plant growth, enhance crop production, enhance soil water retention, enhance nutrient retention, and helps us to sequester CO2, which, if not converted into biochar and if landfilled, for example, would have decomposed and released greenhouse gas emissions. So biochar is a very interesting product, and we're really investing a lot into understanding biochar and how to optimize its production and application. The process that we follow, first, of course, we need to collect the waste, we need to segregate it, cut it into small pieces, dry it to remove the moisture, to reduce the energy requirement during the chemical process, which is called pyrolysis, which is basically heating it up in high temperature in the absence of oxygen. And we do this in the lab. And then we characterize the biochar to understand the porosity and the different and the composition of the biochar itself. So biochar is alkaline in nature, so it's good when we add it to the soil. It helps to increase the pH of the soil slightly. It has a lower electrical conductivity and a higher cation exchange, which is good for soil and water retention. It has higher carbon, which helps us sequester carbon and improve the quality of the soil itself. And it's also not only good for soil, but it can also be used as an adsorbent for water treatment. Our testing methodology is we take the biochar and we combine it with different mediums, sand, organic cow manure, potting soil, and cocoa peat substrates. And we have different loading rates, 0, 0.5, 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8%. And we use it with different crops, chickpeas, cucumbers, okra, etc., etc. When we apply the biochar with the soil, it reduces the bulk density, which is good in terms of enhancing the soil porosity. It increases the pH of the soil, which is good for seed germination. It increases, as I said, the carbon and nitrogen content, which is good for water retention, and it helps increase nutrient retention, especially potassium, zinc, magnesium, and phosphate. Here are some images of the application of biochar, and you can see that as we add biochar, you can see that the quality of the crop is improving. And this is evident in chickpeas, grass, basil, cucumber. But it's not necessary that the more biochar you add, the better it is. At some stage, there's an optimum amount of biochar for each crop. So, in terms of the stats, small fraction of biochar application improved water retention by at least 30%, increased more than 40% seed germination, plant height, and the number of leaves compared to the control, 0%, and reduced the amount of nutrient leaching from the soil and enhanced leaf chlorophyll content. This one is an example of okra, and here we can see that 1% biosod and 1% biochar at 450 degrees provided the best plant height, good leaf production, and one biochar has maximum water retention capacity. So the point of this slide is to show that not necessarily the more biochar we add, the better, but for different plants, they behave differently, and we need to find the optimum amount of biochar for each one. In-house, first we do the simulation of biochar production. We have our own pyrolysis simulator where we can insert any waste at any process condition and calculate the quantity and composition of biochar. We are building a pilot plant now at Qatar Foundation where we can increase the capacity of production capacity of biochar. It's going to look something like this, where we'll have a dual function of pyrolysis and gasification, where we take the waste, we pyrolyze it to get biochar, or we can gasify it for electricity production, which we want to use for car charging. This is some more pics. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tariq. Our next speaker, last but certainly not least, Mr. Mohammed joining us, CEO of PK 2100. The floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and good afternoon. I am going to use the Malaysia model. I actually live in Silicon Valley, taking technologies from Silicon Valley and applying it to the Muslim world to try to find some solutions and hopefully in the process build some industries. Previously, I have been the advisor to Green, okay. Previously, I've been advisor to Dr. Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia, and I built the microchip design industry. The benefit to Malaysia has been more than $32 billion in export revenue and FDIs of more than $150 billion. So my background is engineering. However, right now I'm working on building a new industry called climate change resilience industry. So looking at some of the big factors, I mean, why we have to worry about the climate change. The AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridional Circulation, the waves that go from the north to the south. Now, the scientists, they are saying that this system of circulation of cold and hot water, this is going to fail maybe even by 2025. If that fails, I mean, we're already seeing the temperature of 45 degrees and 51 degrees at night in Oman for it was for 3 consecutive nights. And the water off of Florida, 100 degree Fahrenheit, when you have that kind of temperature, the soil temperature is about 70 degree Fahrenheit, you're not able to grow any food. So indoor farming is not just a hobby or a commercial operation, but a necessity. And so this is where I recommended to Malaysia that why don't we do this? We build better solar systems and at the same time come up with a better EV. So far, as you see, renewable energy has been batteries have been put together for the transportation system. But very little work has been done combining solar. I mean, just like Dr. Veronica just mentioned, not very much work has been done to combine solar and maybe small turbine wind energy with agriculture and to produce food maybe not 2 times, 4 times, but maybe 100 times more. The technologies are there. So we have to take a look at it. Maybe in outdoor agriculture, we may be able to do 2 to 4 times more food production, and with 70% less input. But for the indoor agriculture, we should focus maybe, or we should target for 64 to 100 times more food and using less than 10% water. Now, why is this important? Because according to Oxfam, I mean, the population increase, right now we are at 8 billion people, and we are having a hard time feeding people. What happens by 2050 when we have 10 billion people? It will be a major issue of resources and major issue to feed the people. So this is why we have to do the production of food. I think this morning, Ilat, he made a presentation, he said 2 times more? No, I think we'll have to do maybe 2 to 2.5 times more. For the outdoor agriculture, this is where you can do the food production. But at the same time, I've been hearing a lot about, we need to train young people to become farmers. The average age of farmer in Pakistan is 52, in United States is already 58. Farmers are old, young people are not coming to farming. So what is the solution where we can get the young people to come and do the farming as well? So this is where, some of the solutions I have come together. We are already late. This was one of my diagram. I gave it to Dr. Mahathir back in the year 2000, 23 years ago, that we are late, we need to make extra effort, or we have to make huge effort to achieve our goals. And this is exactly what we need to do. We need to increase the production of food, using less resources, saving water, saving the environment, and getting the young people to come into this field. A lot of complexities. So how are we going to address all of these issues? So I gave this diagram to Dr. Mahathir, and I said, you want to build a microchip design industry, you'll have to make a huge effort. In order to achieve this, so he said, how much money is going to be needed? Somebody said 20 million. I said, no, 50 million. Let's start with 50 million. But, the end result was that Malaysia earned $32 billion. And in fact, still earning. In fact, Intel just announced a couple months ago they are going to invest, Intel and Infineon, that they are going to invest $16 billion into Malaysia. All right. So some of my old pictures I'm going to quickly go through. No need to stress on this. But the cooperation with the universities is very important. And I take your invitation. I'll come and visit you. Okay. Now, universities so far made a partnership with University of Putra Malaysia. I think there are a couple of Malaysians here, they may understand. It's the Agricultural University of Malaysia. So we made a partnership with them that, okay, we are going to do a greenhouse and hopefully we can transfer some of these technologies. And then went to University of California, Davis, the #1 university in agriculture research. And I met with Dr. Gross, and I told him that we need to make a partnership. I told him about my technologies. He said, stay here. He went and brought Dr. Armias, the picture in the top, in the middle. He brought Dr. Armias, and he said, make a partnership with this guy. He's 3 years ahead of us. So private enterprise can be sometime ahead of the universities. But then I said, okay, I'll make a deal with you, but you have to do a collaboration work with the University of Putra, Malaysia. So far now we have about 4 universities collaborating together. I invite the Qatar universities to work with us and the Portuguese or the Brazilian universities to work with us, and hopefully we can come up with some good solutions. So currently I'm advising, I'm not the advisor to Dr. Anwar Ibrahim, to the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, but I'm advising them on building this climate change industry. So talking about the training of the people, that's where it starts. And I will quickly kind of jump through. Now, in front of you, I have a red solar panel here. Now, what is the beauty of this thing? So basically what we are doing is collecting the wavelengths of different lights, combining them, come up with a better solution. And instead of using the grow light, we are using the solar panel, building the whole greenhouse with these solar panels. Each solar panel generates about 0.5 megawatt of electricity, and at the same time, it produces 64 to 100 times more agriculture, more food. Can you show the light quickly? Okay. So now, looking again at these solutions, looking at the problems, again, background engineering, being in Silicon Valley, a little bit crazy guy, okay, coming up with the solutions. So we looked at it and I said, the greenhouses in Middle East, they're costing $50–60 million per 1 acre. That is insane. Because at the end of the day, a person, he is going to buy, let's say 1 kilogram of tomato. If it is more than $2–3, he's going to think twice before I buy it or not. If it is going to be like what I saw here in Carrefour yesterday, the price of tomatoes and price of peppers, 46 Qatari Riyal for a kilo of peppers, for God's sake. I can grow peppers at $2 even, 20 cents. I can grow at 20 cents and still make 1,600% profit. So why are these people charging, $46 because it's imported from Holland? We make our own grow lights. This grow light in the United States costs about $1,800. Our R&D lab in Pakistan, they built it for about $185. So again, lowering the cost of technology, getting it to the people so that we can produce it at the lowest cost and in abundance. And meanwhile, also saving water and saving fossil fuel to transport that vegetable, all of that. That is important. So this is where we have to come up with the solution, and this is called smart farming. And this is what we are practicing. Stuart here is a second-generation Japanese friend of mine. As you can see, these red solar panel on top of his greenhouse. He's earning how much? He's earning $500,000 per acre, per year. I don't think any farmer here is earning that much money. Basically, with this kind of technology, in the field, you will have conventional agriculture in the field in the blue part, then the standard growing in a regular greenhouse. And with this red solar, this is how much the growth you have. Okay? This is Dr. Gerald Raymond. He's one of the top agriculturist in Germany. He called me and this is our greenhouse in Islamabad, Pakistan. This is our actually R&D lab. I also sleep there, by the way. So Dr. Gerald, he called and he said, I have about half hour, I want to come and visit your greenhouse. I said, no problem. He came, he stayed 3 hours. He said, I've never seen such a solution in Germany, not in Europe, not in Africa, not anywhere. And he said, by looking at this, my entire image of Pakistan has changed. But then he said, it's not Pakistan, it's because of you. So it can be, again, the people who are working on the technologies, they can create all these. I give the example of Netherlands, indoor farming leader. The size of Netherlands, 1/300 times of United States, population 17 million people. Their agriculture export right now is about 120 billion euro. If they can do that, why not Qatar? Why not Egypt? Why not Pakistan? Why not Gambia? All that is possible if you do miles and miles of greenhouses. Again, if we are late, the effort has to be huge. You have to make a huge effort. This is a picture of Spain on the top, year 2022, and then below is 1984. Again, miles of greenhouses. Biggest problem, again, in these greenhouses, the biggest problem is light consumption. If you have these grow lights, your electricity bill will be higher. My electricity bill in Islamabad is only $5 per month, and that's actually meter charge. So my energy is almost free. I can grow salmon. Right now I'm growing masir, or if the Malaysians are here, they will understand. Emperau is about 1,000 ringgit per kg. I'm growing that fish, salmon fish, fresh fish inside the greenhouse. For outdoor agriculture, we have regenerative agriculture. Again, 70% less input and 2 to 4 times more production of rice. You can do it with any kind of crop, even including fruits. We grew wheat inside our greenhouse. Winter wheat that takes 6 to 8 months, I grew it in 2 months. So now we are doing speed breeding of seeds. And hopefully we can give these seeds to the farmers that are pest resistant, heat resistant, and we can grow more food. We're also growing fodder, all kinds of fodder, high protein fodder, and also that can be used for your health supplements, wheatgrass, barley grass, all those kind of things. They sell very well at Amazon, okay? So this is the other part of it. The fodder part, again, we are doing that. Here's a complete ecosystem of outdoor, indoor, aquaculture, all put together in one diagram. So basically, we have aquaculture tanks whereby we raise all kind of fish. That water goes into our greenhouses to grow vegetables, and then part of it goes to the crops, and that's where we do regenerative agriculture, and we are able to grow food outdoor 2 to 4 times more, indoor 64 to 100 times more at the least amount of cost that is possible. So again, it all starts with training of people, and then at every step of the way, the investments come in. The Malaysian government, so far, we're getting the commitment of $25 million from the government just to start with it, and then $75 million will come from the US Muslim community. By the way, Muslim community in the United States, we're not poor. The Muslim community, their net worth is about $300 billion. So even 1% of that is about $3 billion. So for these projects, we can get, so conclusion, so basically, combine agriculture with renewable energy, and hopefully you can get more agriculture, and this is how you get young people excited to become farmers. I'm in the process of training 180,000 people within the next 5 years. Out of that, there will be about 60,000 young farmers who will be working indoor during the hot daytime and outdoors in the early mornings and the late afternoons. Some agreements that we have done with various universities, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know it's been a big panel, but we heard examples from across the world: Turkey, Egypt, Pakistan, Qatar, Brazil, Iran, Malaysia, and the United States as well. So I hope that you all benefited as much as I did from this, and I will hand over to our chair to proceed with the questions.
Well, it's very difficult to frame questions, very diverse range of presentations, very useful ideas. If I have to just recap from our friend from Iran, Jwan Mard talked about reducing loss and wastage of food. And someone said in the morning session that if we reduce the wastage by half, we will be surplus in everything. So that much is the volume of wastage. So it's very important that wastage gets addressed. He spoke about mechanizing the traditional value chain, starting from simple bread to milk and meat, and so on to perishable commodities. Our speaker from Brazil, if I have correctly captured him, he talked about artificial light and nano water bubbles. And the last speaker also talked about light. With my little bit background in botanical sciences, the white solar light has 7 colors, and all 7 are not actually required for chlorophyll to perform carbon dioxide fixation, which is the ultimate source of energy on the earth. Everything we have is conversion of carbon dioxide from the air and fixed into chemical energy. That chemical energy is actually coming from one certain wavelength of white light. So both of you have talked about converting specific wavelength into chemical energy, which is a very fine way of looking at the ultimate source of energy. And then a series of presentations from the host, Qatar, photovoltaic solutions, particularly combining it with evapotranspiration, and thereby conserving water. Then Tariq Al-Ansari spoke about greenhouse design. My engineer friends must have been taking notes that greenhouse which has 20% less cooling requirement. And he talked about active cooling and passive cooling. It's a very important concept that you conserve the energy used for cooling when the active cooling is in surplus, and then plow it back into the system. Also, he added another subject of biochar and the pyrolysis process for converting waste into valuable soil amendments, and thereby improving the soil absorption capacity and soil chemistry, which allows for better water and nutrient use. Khokhar Saab, our last speaker, I'm very thrilled to hear from him. I'm sorry why we have not known him. He's in Islamabad, sir. We would like to visit with you and take advantage of your brilliant ideas. You talked about UC Berkeley and University of Kassel, and incidentally, we have been collaborating with both of those two universities. So maybe we have something to talk about. But most importantly, he thinks that he can train young farmers, whereas we are extremely worried that there are no young farmers in the horizon. So if we could train them in a new way and give them new options to become farmers, then that's an extremely valuable contribution. Having fashion farmer, in Park Road of Islamabad is a different thing. Going down to South Punjab or into Sindh or into the hinterland is another thing. So I hope you are talking about farmers down in the hinterland and not on the Park Road, because the farmers on the Park Road are not doing farming for living. So they're enjoying their families grab of public land in the form of farmhouses. So, I hope you are speaking something different than those farmhouses. So with these few comments, I would like to hear more about how we can connect energy, the technology to preventing wastage, be that barcoding or traceability, or making sure that food is compliant to the world markets. And then to our energy friends, for us energy is the critical element, and your solutions are very attractive to us. So how to commercialize those solutions? And this greenhouse design, here there's, it simply makes sense. Being in Qatar, I lived in Oman more than a decade, and speaking about greenhouses and controlled environment agriculture makes sense. But then end of the day, again, it's driven by energy and initial capital cost. And if initial capital cost, as Khokhar Sahab has mentioned, the price of 1 kilogram of tomatoes and the buying capacity of ordinary folks in OIC geographies, there has to be some cost-benefit relationship. So with these few comments, I would really like to have feedback from the distinguished panelists about some of the comments that I was able to make.
Thank you very much. As we said before, now we have 30% of waste in the agriculture from the starting and the harvesting, and we have lack of land for producing more food. We have lack of scarcity of the water. We have a conflict of war between different countries like Russia and Ukraine, and we have limitation to produce more food. And what about the waste valorization and waste management? This is simple. Well, if there are many unit operation to produce food, you can use the same unit operation for using or valorization of the waste is the same. Each country have their unit operation for the food production. You can use the same operations to food waste valorization, and I think this is the choice for using waste valorization, waste byproduct, especially byproduct valorization to and as the approach for the food security.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eu acredito que as tecnologias emergentes, ela precisa de imediato capacidade.
أنا أؤمن أن التقنيات الجديدة بحاجة إلى طاقات
Mão de obra especializada.
وأيادي عاملة مختصة.
E como desenvolver a informação da mão de obra especializada para o agricultor.
وكيف نستطيع أن نحسن هذا؟
Canal de comunicação importante.
المواصلات، الاتصالات.
E aceitação da tecnologia, mudança de cultura é importante.
وتقبل التكنولوجيا بالثقافات مهم جدا.
E quando temos aceitação de tecnologia,
عندما نتقبل التكنولوجيا،
quando vimos a importância de aceitar o processo de mudanças,
عندما نتقبل أن نتغير،
nós podemos tirar o máximo da tecnologia envolvida no processo produtivo.
نستطيع أن نأخذ نتائج كبرى.
Inteligência artificial, IoT, biochar.
الذكاء الاصطناعي، يوتي.
Construção de solos.
بناء تربة.
Uso de tecnologia de irrigação.
استعمال تكنولوجيا الري.
Precisamos de pessoas capacitadas no campo.
نستطيع أناس قادرين.
E essa capacitação ela tem que partir de princípio do governo.
وهذا يجب أن يأتي من الحكومة.
e criar um meio para que todo mundo tenha acesso à tecnologia, mas a
Ué.
informação tem que chegar correta.
ويجب أن يكون كل الفئات لها معرفة لكي يكون لها المنفعة والكل له المنفعة.
Eu acredito que os custos iniciais de investimento
وأنا أؤمن أن المصاريف الأساسية
com o tempo, com as tecnologias adequadas na agricultura,
مع الوقت ومع التكنولوجيا في الزراعة
pode diminuir e melhorar a capacidade produtiva e aumentar a economia local.
ممكن أن المصاريف تقل كثيرا ويكبر الإنتاج من ناحية أخرى.
E esse desenvolvimento está em desenvolvimento de pesquisas com startups.
وهذا النمو يكون عن طريق دراسات.
Uma coisa importante para deixar claro
من المؤكد
que a fome no mundo não está só alinhada à falta de alimento.
أن الجوع ليس مرتبط بقلة مواد الأكل.
Mas a distribuição de renda.
ولكن توزيع الأرباح.
Thank you.
شكرا.
So I am not sure I got the question, but yes, no, for me, the answer to the question, if I got in the right way, it is social acceptance. Social acceptance that also will help to your question of having younger farmers. Because if we offer them a space where they can make their lives successful while contributing to also their many ideologies, because young people is really willing to fight against climate change. So this combination of photovoltaics together with farming can also, we can bring social acceptance through adepts to fighting against climate change. So for me, this is the main take of this.
I guess for me, as an outcome of this, I would like to see, going forward, to see what member states have similar opportunities and similar challenges. I'm not sure this is directly related to the question, but it's just a concluding remark where I think this would be a good outcome of this conference. What are the similar characteristics and similar challenges? And going forward, I think in terms of technology adoption, farmers, policymakers need to understand the environment and climate they're in and select the appropriate technology accordingly. I think informed decision-making in this regard is important. We not all have the same characteristics, and so we need to choose the technologies according to where we are and what the conditions are. Thank you.
Okay. I think the challenges that we all are facing and this planet is facing is the climate change. And climate change is going to force the small farming to go out of business. I mean, that's the reality. If you take a look at the turn of the century, United States had more than 10 million farms, but then now it is reduced. It's become large-scale farming and cooperative farming. So you will have to think in that sense. And when you have large-scale farming and cooperative farming, then the use of these technologies at a wholesale level will become easier. And it will become cost-effective, and whereby we will be able to produce much more food at the lowest cost. One other aspect that I didn't mention in my speech, but one of the huge benefits that will come through all of this is that you will be able to get nutritionally dense food, more wholesome, more healthy food coming out from these new agriculture techniques. I mean, we'll get away from these pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. I don't use any fertilizers at all. I don't use any pesticides at all in my greenhouse and in my outdoor agriculture. I live on a 62-acre farm. My biggest problem is my stuff grows too fast for me to catch up and harvest it in time. So I think this is one of the things that will happen. We just have to we're talking about people acceptance. I mean, government will have to come up with the policies that people will accept, and hopefully there will be some subsidies and all of that. Subsidies is part of running a government, but large-scale farming, cooperative farming, more adoption of technologies, lowest cost, and more healthy food. That's what is going to happen, and that's the direction that the world is going, and that's the way it should be. There is no other choice left.
I think you have said it right that the small farms are phasing out because they are no more attractive for farming. And if we go by numbers, in last 40 years or so, in Pakistan, the number of farms has quadrupled. In America, it has gone down. In Pakistan, it has gone 4 times up. The number of farms is more than 9 million now. And that's simply not practical to farm. So the opportunity is in the crisis that there has to be now a new breed of farmers who can take over that land and make it economically viable farming. For IOFS, I see, there was a suggestion made here that we will write one-pagers in different languages. I would also suggest that looking at the technology spread that we have seen since morning here, that should be packaged or that should be marketed in member countries, maybe as a part of technology parks, where they could be upscaled and commercialized. They're looking very good on paper. They have to go down to the practical challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very rewarding session. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our second round of panelists. Thank you to all of our dear participants. I realize that we're about 30 minutes running late, so I thank you for your patience on this long panel. I see that Dr. Ismail is in the back. We made a recommendation earlier to have briefs on all these technologies that Professor just mentioned, making them available into member country languages to share what we've all walked away from much more broadly. So that might be something for iOS to pick up and take away. And we will, I believe, take a break, but I hand over to our MC.
Thank you very much, Dr. Logan. Thank you very much, Professor Professor Iqrar Ahmad Khan, for the great session, for the productive session. It will definitely include into the recommendations of the event and Doha communique. Thank you very much. We will have a coffee break, 20-minute coffee break. Please come by 5:20. That we're going to start our round table for speakers, dear moderator, dear chair, for the group photo. Thank you.
Other speakers can also join, but at the end we will have the group photo for all speakers and
The evolution of humanity. World wars. Climate change and global warming. The aftermath of a global pandemic. A new wave of tension due to the real threat of nuclear war. Growing economic inequality. All of these factors contribute to unprecedented levels of food insecurity. What is food security? We envision food security with happy children who are confident in a future of peace and prosperity. It's the formation of a new global ideology that protects and develops the potential of sustainable food production. It's when every citizen of the world has access to a variety of nutritious foods. The Islamic Organization for Food Security is an OIC specialized programming institution that was created at the initiative of Kazakhstan to address food security issues in OIC member states. Studies have shown that the 57 member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation are more affected by undernutrition compared with other countries. The strategic mission of the IOFS is to respond to new realities and ensure sustainable food security in member states. The key statutory objectives of the IOFS are providing expertise and technical know-how to member states to assess and monitor the state of food security, identify emergencies, provide social safety nets and humanitarian assistance, to coordinate, formulate and implement common agricultural policies to address agriculture-related problems as desertification, deforestation, erosion, and salinity, to mobilize and manage and agricultural resources. 10-year strategy IOFS Vision 2031 stands on 5 pillars: governance enablement, food crisis response, capacity building, industry development, resource mobilization. IOFS global agenda includes the Afghanistan Food Security Program in December 2021 in Islamabad, Pakistan, the 17th extraordinary session of the OIC CFM on the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan decided to launch an Afghanistan Food Security Program and requested IOFS to undertake through capacity of the organization's food security reserves, OIC member states, international donors, the UN funds and programs and others are encouraged to contribute to the program. Africa Food Security Initiative in March 2023, at the 49th session of the OIC CFM in Nouakchott, OIC member states request IOFS to implement the Africa Food Security Initiative as a means of solving the urgent problems faced by the continent regarding food security and agricultural development. The move was a consolidation of the IOFS commitment to Africa that began with the celebration of 2022 as the IOFS Year of Africa, which was marked by various activities in various OIC member states, including Niger, Nigeria, Tunisia, and Turkey. In this context, AFSI is implementing the initiative through various programs to ensure that food systems in sub-Saharan Africa are given the attention they deserve so that people throughout the region can have access to essential nutrition. IOFS empowering communities with sustainable food systems. The evolution of humanity. World wars. Climate change and global warming. The aftermath of a global pandemic. A new wave of tension due to the real threat of nuclear war. Growing economic inequality. All of these factors contribute to unprecedented levels of food insecurity. What is food security? We envision food security with happy children who are confident in a future of peace and prosperity. It's the formation of a new global ideology that protects and develops the potential of sustainable food production. It's when every citizen of the world has access to a variety of nutritious foods. The Islamic Organization for Food Security is an OIC specialized programming institution that was created at the initiative of Kazakhstan to address food security issues in OIC member states. Studies have shown that the 57 member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation are more affected by undernutrition compared with other countries. The strategic mission of the IOFS is to respond to new realities and ensure sustainable food security in member states. The key statutory objectives of the IOFS are providing expertise and technical know-how to member states to assess and monitor the state of food security, identify emergencies, provide social safety nets and humanitarian assistance to coordinate, formulate and implement common agricultural policies to address agriculture-related problems as desertification, deforestation, erosion, and salinity to mobilize and manage gel and agricultural resources. 10-year strategy IOFS Vision 2031 stands on 5 pillars: governance enablement, food crisis response, capacity building, industry development, resource mobilization. IOFS global agenda includes the Afghanistan Food Security Program in December 2021 in Islamabad, Pakistan, the 17th extraordinary session of the OIC CFM on the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan decided to launch an Afghanistan Food Security Program and requested IOFS to undertake through capacity of the organization's food security reserves, OIC member states, international donors, the UN funds and programs and others are encouraged to contribute to the program. Africa Food Security Initiative in March 2023 at the 49th session of the OIC CFM in Nouakchott. OIC member states request IOFS to implement the Africa Food Security Initiative as a means of solving the urgent problems faced by the continent regarding food security and agricultural development. The move was a consolidation of the IOFS commitment to Africa that began with the celebration of 2022 as the IOFS Year of Africa, which was marked by various activities in various OIC member states, including Nigeria, Tunisia, and Turkey. In this context, AFSI is implementing the initiative through various programs to ensure that food systems in sub-Saharan Africa are given the attention they deserve so that people throughout the region can have access to essential nutrition. IOFS empowering communities with sustainable food systems. The evolution of humanity. World wars, climate change and global warming, the aftermath of a global pandemic, a new wave of tension due to the real threat of nuclear war, growing economic inequality. All of these factors contribute to unprecedented levels of food insecurity. What is food security? We envision food security with happy children who are confident in a future of peace and prosperity. It's the formation of a new global ideology that protects and develops the potential of sustainable food production. It's when every citizen of the world has access to a variety of nutritious foods. The Islamic Organization for Food Security is an OIC specialized programming institution that was created at the initiative of Kazakhstan to address food security issues in OIC member states. Studies have shown that the 57 member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation are more affected by undernutrition compared with other countries. The strategic mission of the IOFS is to respond to new realities and ensure sustainable food security in member states. The key statutory objectives of the IOFS are providing expertise and technical know-how to member states to assess and monitor the state of food security, identify emergencies, provide social safety nets and humanitarian assistance, to coordinate, formulate and implement common agricultural policies to address agriculture-related problems as desertification, deforestation, erosion, and salinity, to mobilize and manage and agricultural resources. 10-year strategy IOFS Vision 2031 stands on 5 pillars: governance enablement, food crisis response, capacity building, industry development, resource mobilization. IOFS global agenda includes the Afghanistan Food Security Program in December 2021 in Islamabad, Pakistan, the 17th extraordinary session of the OIC CFM on the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan decided to launch an Afghanistan food security program and requested IOFS to undertake through capacity of the organization's food security reserves, OIC member states, international donors, the UN funds and programs and others are encouraged to contribute to the program. Africa Food Security Initiative in March 2023. At the 49th session of the OIC CFM in Nouakchott, OIC member states request IOFS to implement the Africa Food Security Initiative as a means of solving the urgent problems faced by the continent regarding food security and agricultural development. The move was a consolidation of the IOFS commitment to Africa that began with the celebration of 2022 as the IOFS Year of Africa, which was marked by various activities in various OIC member states, including Niger, Nigeria, Tunisia, and Turkey. In this context, AFSI is implementing the initiative through various programs to ensure that food systems in sub-Saharan Africa are given the attention they deserve so that people throughout the region can have access to essential nutrition. IOFS empowering communities with sustainable food systems. The evolution of humanity. World wars.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. We'll start the roundtable and outcomes of the event. The roundtable will be chaired by Dr. Ismail Abdul Hamid, Advisor of Programs and Projects Department, and moderated by Dr. Saad Abdul Halim Shannak, expert of Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute, Hamad bin Khalifa University. The panelists will contain the chairs of first three sessions, Dr. Abid Qayyum, Executive Director, Sustainable Development Policy Institute in Pakistan, Dr. Conrad Rain, Director of Policy Outreach, Innovation Commission, Development Innovation Lab, University of Chicago, USA, Professor Iqrar Ahmad Khan, Vice Chancellor of the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad in Pakistan, Mr. Mark Velders, Minister of Municipality of the State of Qatar, Mr. John Rai, Project Manager, Sustainable Food Systems of Ireland, and also online joined with us, Dr. Nazia Habib, Founder and Director of the Center for Resilience and Sustainable Development at the University of Cambridge, and Damian Mellins, Director of FERA Science. Dear moderator, dear speakers, please, I'm going to invite you to the podium. Please take your seats. Dr. Ismail, the floor is yours. Thank you. And Dr. Saad will take it as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Bakhijan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are waiting Dr. Saad. So we can start, or we have to wait for? We have to wait. We can start. Okay. So we came to the round table. That for us one of the most important parts of the of gathering the entertainment that we have been enjoying since the morning. And I have to thank the IOFS actually teams that for all the effort that they did, and they made our life easy. They prepare everything for me. And they show you my photo 4 years ago. They want me to look even younger. So this is the, if they can show it again, this is how I joined IOFS, and this is how I am here today. So we will, the panel theme actually, it is about the policy intervention to introduce and expand agri-tech in OIC geography, benefiting from opportunities and overcoming the challenges, government initiatives and the support for agricultural innovation and agri-tech applications by enterprises, public-private partnership for promoting technology-driven solutions, and the role of agri-tech and innovations in the transforming food system. It is very, very important for us. We have among us Dr. Abid Qayyum, Executive Director, Sustainable Development Policy Institute in Pakistan, Dr. Conrad Rain, Director of Policy Outreach, Innovation Commission, Development Innovation Lab, European Commission, University of Chicago, USA. His Excellency Professor Iqrar Ahmad Khan, Vice Chancellor of the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad in Pakistan. Mr. Mark Velders, Ministry of Municipalities of the State of Qatar. Mr. John Ray, Project Manager, Sustainable Food Systems of Ireland. And we have online Dr. Nazia Habib, founder and the director of the Center for Resilience and Sustainable Development at the University of Cambridge, and Damian Malians, director of FERA Science, both from Airline. And we have the rapporteur, my brother, Professor Saad Shamak. And if we can start, we will coordinate with I will coordinate with brother Dr. Saad for this round table. And if we talk about the first policy intervention to introduce and expand agri-tech in OIC geography to benefiting for the opportunities and overcoming the challenges, which is really huge, both the opportunities and the challenges, I would be happy to give the floor for a couple of minutes with Dr. Abidul Qayyum to discuss with him that how can policies and be designed to facilitate the introduction and the expansion of agricultural technologies in OIC member states. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. And I think after listening to all the case studies which are presented this morning, one thing is very clear, that the use of agriculture technology in IOFS member country is quite possible. We heard the stories from Turkey, we heard the stories from Malaysia, we heard the stories from Qatar and different other case studies. Now, of course, replicating these technologies and making them available to the low and low middle income member countries, that would remain a challenge. And I think one of the best things for technology is that as we start replicating technology, as we start adopting it at a scale, its cost automatically decreases. But one thing that I would recommend here is that for countries like Pakistan, which according to this Vision 2031 of IOFS, is considered as those countries which have potential but which are lagging behind. So Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many other such countries, that's where we need to foster some sort of business-to-business collaboration, public-private partnership, and government-to-government partnership. And in case of Pakistan, there is already this vehicle which is called SIFC, Special Investment Facilitation Council. This is one window stop where we have all the stakeholders, including civilian and military leadership, taking care of investors' interest. And as I said in the morning, that 9.1 million hectare of land has been dedicated in Pakistan for corporate agriculture farming under this SIFC. Now, this land is mostly arid in Punjab as well as in Sindh provinces of Pakistan. And what we saw today, what is happening in successfully in Qatar, now I have no doubt that SIFC, if we implement it and if we can have some partners coming over there, we can actually turn that desert into very productive agricultural piece of land. So again, summing up that in order to tackle the problems of climate change, the problems of unpredictable supply of cereals and food, we need to convert our arid land into fertile land. And in order to do it, we have to adopt technology, digital agriculture. All the technology is there. In some countries, in OIC countries, there are resources. In some countries, there is land and human resources. And I think all we require is to blend both the financial resources with the natural resources and human resources so that we can be in a win-win situation.
Yeah, thank you. They assure me not to ask, just to be adhere to what I have. I'm sorry for that, but what you have mentioned is really emphasized me to ask several questions. I will keep with the scenario because of the time, I know, but we have to discuss the opportunities of what you have, Doctor, mentioned now, how we can really transfer to other member countries, because this is the way we need to discuss it. So I will give 1 minute for my friend and brother Dr. Connor for maybe he can give us a highlight about what is specific challenges do OIC member states face in adopting and implementing agricultural technologies, and how can policy interventions address these challenges. I know 1 minute is too much for this, you know.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ismail.
Yeah.
I think key is really to coordinate and cooperate, and this is easier said than done. I know this quite well because in my previous role in the past 9 years, I have done this on behalf of the European Commission with the EU member states, and then also at the global level as chair of the Global Donor Platform at IFAD. And the focus should really be on strategic partnerships, in my view, as well as public awareness, because society, especially farmers, need to be open for the many innovations that exist. So this is really crucial, and I believe the IOFS can play a central role here. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that. Thank you very much. And I know that also in Faisalabad University, Agriculture University, they have also a lot of technologies that I got the chance to be exposed, and maybe we will give 1 minute to Professor Ikrar for the agriculture technologies in Faisalabad University. Just in 1 minute, please, that how can it help OIC member countries?
Well, I would like to extend the discussion started by Dr. Suleri that in OIC countries, the technology which is available that needs to be marketed through a policy environment. I would just like to cite one example. We have 9 million farm households, and 90% of them are small farmers. And there is every single acre which is being sprayed by a shoulder-mounted knapsack sprayer, which is less than 30% efficient, whether that is a weedicide or an insecticide or a fungicide, and or it's a nutrient solution or it's a biological. The shoulder-mounted sprayer, hand sprayer, cannot be more than 30 to 40% efficient. Whereas we have now drones, and drones can create SMEs, employment opportunities. There was a discussion on youth engagement. So I think there is a policy issue here where we have to motivate the governments to create an environment where technology, I'm just using this as an example. We discussed a lot in the previous 2 sessions about data and about energy. But I'm just using a specific example of drones applications.
Yes, Prof.
Which is a policy as well as SME opportunity.
Yep, this is why I asked just to brief on this, because I could not discuss these issues without listening to your opinion. If you allow me for the second part, I need to get also the benefit that we have Dr. Saad Shanak with us. He's graduated from Texas A&M, and I think also for the second about government initiatives, if you can help us on this. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor. So very quick, actually, and I would like to direct a question to Mr. John, if it's possible, from Ireland Sustainable Food Systems. So it's a matter of resources allocation at the end of the day. We do have a lot of resources, and as we have seen in the previous sessions, that it's a matter of how we allocate these resources, how we can make finances more accessible to farmers and to different beneficiaries, if you wish, at different sectors, so they can proceed with the initiatives that they would like to do. So, again, Mr. John, if your thoughts on resource allocation and equitable access. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think when it comes to resources, no matter where you are in the world, resources are always finite. No country can fund everything. And it needs to you need a targeted approach to certain activities, where your strengths are in your system, what do you produce best, and you target those sectors. That's probably the best way to do it. Within that, you can have a target of different farmers. What we do in Ireland is we target younger farmers more than existing farmers, because we want younger farmers to get into the system. Because once you have young farmers in the sector is thriving. So what we do is, when it comes to grant-based systems for buying technology, for buying agri-tech, we give young farmers preferential treatment, high percentage grants. Now, even existing farmers will get 40% grants. Okay? So that's a significant co-funding of investment on farm. That will cover many technologies, and in Ireland we're very strong in animal production, so it tends towards focus on that. But young farmers can get up to 70% co-funding. So these are the kind of ways you need to think about encouraging young farmers, so the whole sector becomes more sustainable into the future. Any sector that has young people coming into it is in a good shape.
My next question to Dr. or Mr. Welder. So basically, we are in Qatar now, and Qatar has made strides in public-private partnership. So how can these partnerships accelerate what we call the tech-driven solution in agriculture? In the morning, we have listened to different technologies option that is already out there. But what would be needed is more like public-private partnership to take place to accelerate these technology to be more accessible for farmers. So they would also know the know-how, they are aware about the know-how, and they would maximize the use of these resources. So if you can elaborate on the public-private partnership and how it will help with this process.
Yeah, I think public-private partnerships are essential for the success of any research effort. If we go back to, say, the early 1900s, the first artificial fertilizers were invented by Mr. Haber and Mr. Bos. Mr. Haber was an academic, Mr. Bos was a private sector person. They came together and they transformed the whole of agriculture for the next century. In Qatar, we have an annual cycle running, an annual research cycle, the Qatar National Research Fund, co-funded by our ministry. It's now in its fourth cycle, and we made it an obligation for contenders to partner with the private sector operators before launching their proposals. So in the preparation of their proposals, they partner with private sector operators. And in the execution of their proposals, they partner with private sector operators. So we see the first results of the first cycle, which was in 2019. We see them emerging as we speak. We saw some presentations here today and yesterday, and we hope to see more of those coming to fruition in the next years.
Yeah, actually, in IFS, we have very good connection also to coordinate on this. And I think the 2024, maybe we can also discuss this with Professor Zulfikar for the 2024 also activities in IFS that we have to give a special emphasis for how can agri-tech helping the others in transferring and also incorporating with those with the countries that is really have the big leap for it. So if you allow me that we can give the floor for also Dr. Connor for very brief 1 minute about the public-private partnerships for promoting technology-driven solutions and how can public-private partnerships be leveraged to accelerate the adoption of technology-driven solutions in agriculture within OIC member states. And please exceed 1 minute if you want to, because this is very important. They remind me when I was young working with biotechnology, and all what we need to learn is how the restriction enzymes working and to make all the molecular virology work. And they take us to a very important workshop from Stanford University to teach us about IPR and the private sectors, and we were really so much annoying about this one. We don't know that we did not realize later it is the key for the biotechnology. So the agri-tech is very important to talk about public-private partnership. I even take more 1 minute.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Thank you very much. For me, this is very much linked with government initiatives, and it's super essential. And what I say is actually not only relevant, I think, for OIC countries, but many countries, I would say, on the donor side, where I worked in the last 9 years, you know, where we have basically shrinking public budgets. Nowadays, inflation, recession into several countries, and there are also other reasons that make it absolutely imperative to push for this. But my key message is, in a nutshell, in academia, we are talking more than 20 years about public-private partnerships. Let's just do it. Let's do it at a large scale. We know the problems that we have. Hunger is on the rise. We have the solutions. So I think this is my main message. Very short. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It is target to the point, which was that this is really what we really need. But you think that we need that technology-driven solutions for OIC member countries, and you know, in OIC member states we have different abilities to accept these issues. This is why also I need to ask Mr. John about the policy frameworks can encourage collaboration between governments and the private sector to drive innovation in the agricultural sector.
Thank you.
How can you advise us on this?
I think you need to bring the public sector research base closer to the commercialization base, which is the business end. And how you can achieve that is the use of something which we've used a lot in Ireland, is tech centers, so technological centers. And these are housed in a public institute, so a research institute, it could be a university. Within that, you identify sectors that are important to you. In this case, it's going to be agri-technology sector. And you identify the companies within that, and you cluster those within a research institute, and you can co-fund that. In Ireland, we co-fund that to 70% public funding, but business must put in the other 30%. We use a thing called co-opetition. These are competitor businesses. Normally, they don't want to cooperate with each other. They hide their technology and so on. But if you can publicly fund certain areas, very quickly, they start cooperating together on the specific needs within that sector. And from that, you get outputs from research, public research, developing new products, and these companies scale those products and provide them as a service and machinery, etc., to farmers. We started that in 2010. The Ministry of Enterprise developed Innovation 2020. We had no tech centers at that stage. Now we have 9 tech centers in total and 16 research centers. And the return on investment on that has been 6 to 20 times the investment, depending on the tech center that they're focused on. Some of them started later than others. So that's a significant return to the public sector.
This is very important, actually. And also, we need also to, there is online participants, maybe they need also to comment on about the policy framework, and they can encourage collaboration between government and the private sector to drive innovation in the agricultural sector. Maybe we can ask Dr. Nazia Habib, if she is online.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you, Dr. Ismail, for the question. I think, now, how many minutes do I have? Is it 1, or do I get a benefit of the doubt?
couple of minutes, it's okay.
Okay, great. So I think the interesting points that has been mentioned is actually, for me, detail is in the devil, or devil is in the detail, as they call it. And the reason I say this as academics, as someone in the panel mentioned, that we know these subject quite well between the time we got decolonized from the old colonial time, and the legacy effect left us with famines in different parts of the world, and today with lots of conflicts and climate change situation that is going through the region. It is, for me, has three critical areas where I think we need to get a little bit closer to the topic for OIC. So OIC can use is both diplomatic and institutional power to help the regions and the member states to uplift itself. So my short 3 bullet points are: we need to localize rights to food to all the countries. So constitutionally, all the countries, member states in OIC actually have given rights to its people, to its food. And it's so critical. I have done a very quick summary work on this recently, and we found that very little North Africa and Near East regional countries have right to food within its constitution written out. And moreover, very little have actually been done in terms of creating regulatory framework to offer that rights, which contrary to that in OIC, other member states from Asia tend to have actually much larger commitment into rights to food in constitution, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia. So you also see the kind of way the economics have worked out in these countries in terms of securing food for their population. The second point is actually in the trade and monetizing innovation, whether it's in the country or outside the country, especially when you're talking about public-private partnership. I think OIC could help the countries to create templates of contract and regulatory frameworks in absence of having a updated import-export policies on technologies, namely with Industry 4.0 enabled technologies or robots, because that can actually, instead of creating jobs, could inadvertently take away jobs, especially from gender and diversity focused jobs, which are actually one of the commitment I looked up on your OIC commitment recently has been made. So I think, again, this is where part focus needs to be done into the detail level of what's going on in these inter-regional cooperation commitments from the trade policies between, and investment policies, even more important. So you lock in the interest group. And the third one is actually, given the OIC has a large population base, given the Asian countries who are your member, but again, a smaller population base in the countries who are in the region of where we are sitting today, there needs to have a common pool asset understanding as to where maybe some of the assets can be traded internally without actually going out of the region and actually seeking for investment, simply because some of the governance within the region are so common that it often hurts itself trying to innovate because you lose the momentum. So common pool asset, pool structuring strategy is something we have developed and now applying to small island developing countries, where also the same provision of rights to foods and many other important areas are not in the constitution. So we find over and over, when you talk about policy making and applied policies or policy integration, they become buzzwords because they are not really integrated within the political rules and political norms of any country. Hence, when it comes to negotiation within its own ministries or within its own private sector, forget about the international one, it becomes so weak that the resilience within the supply chain of resources and services among each other are not very strong. So that actually where I believe that OIC can help the member state collectively among with other multilateral development agencies to improve the coordination between the pool of resources that they can structure and then attract collective funding. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. If you allow me, I will give the 4 sections to Dr. Saad, back to you, about the role of agri-tech and innovations in transforming the food system.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would like just to visit with what Dr. Nazih has just mentioned, that the typical or classical paradigm where like economic factors are the ones that drive like decision-making process when it comes to food security are no longer like viable. And there are other layers that we have always to consider, including like, as has been mentioned, political, economic, and like even trade partners. So a country like Qatar, for instance, like the new strategic vision for food security, they are looking at diversifying their like food partner by looking at different factors, including those who are like having some alliances as far as like energy partners and so on and so forth. So it's crucial at this point, like when it comes to food security, is to look at different layers of the problem. We in academia, I'm coming from academia, like we try to come up with solutions like within the boundaries of the university, and we would think that this will be like implemented hopefully if it has reached to the policymakers. But ultimately, these like solutions that have been developed in academia, unfortunately, doesn't answer like real market problems or market like questions. So there has been some sort of like gap between policymakers, people in industry, as well as people in academia. So to bridge this gap, there should be like some sort of like frameworks that kind of like tailor the actual role for every single like segment of this puzzle in a way that would be fruitful. There is a quote I would like to mention here that they always say that policy as well as tech are the seeds for food security, but not in silos. If these are working in silos, these segments are working in silos, it's quite hard to implement real policies and achieve food security targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you can take also the rule to ask for the two questions, or I can, if you want. Okay. So I need to ask Dr. Connor, in what ways can agri-tech and innovations contribute to transforming food systems in OIC member states, and how should policies support this transformation? You have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
And I would like to elaborate a little bit on this, because I feel this is really key. There has been a paradigm shift 2 years ago with the Food System Summit and the stocktake in Rome end of July this year, which has really elevated the importance of food systems transformation. So it's clear we need an inclusive approach. And agri-tech and innovations do not only speed up the process, they are an integral component of the whole story. To achieve resilient, environmentally sustainable food systems. And that's exactly what we are trying to promote in the coming 2 years with the Innovation Commission that I represent here. So our focus is on promoting the development and transition to scale of highly cost-effective and impactful innovations that help improve production and address climate change at the same time. And some of these scientifically and practically proven innovations include weather forecasting, digital agriculture, rainwater harvesting, climate-resilient cash transfers, livestock innovations to reduce emissions, microbial fertilizers, and alternative proteins. And we are also taking, together with the COP28 presidency, a multi-COP perspective until COP30 in 2025 in Brazil. Of course, it is clear we will not save the world in 2 years, but we want to stimulate a debate among governments and other relevant stakeholders on the importance of scaling the right innovations. So this is taken forward in whatever format, and also using health and the establishment of the Gavi Alliance as an inspiration for our work. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. And I think if we can give also the floor to online speaker, Damian Malin, Director of ERA Science, to speak about and to give us in 2 minutes what are the key policy consideration for ensuring that the agri-tech and the innovation lead to sustainable and resilient food system in OIC member countries? I know it's a tough question.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and certainly I would echo much of what my fellow panelists have talked about so far in this session regarding the need for private sector partnership, collaboration with government regulators, entrepreneurs, corporates, and academics. I think all of those points they've made, I would echo the sentiment behind them. I think one of the observations I would like to make from our experience here at Ferro Science in the United Kingdom is that the world is full of a vibrant entrepreneurial academic research base. There's lots going on in agri-food, around tech, around biologicals, around plant treatments. There's a lot of activity there. But one of the panelists mentioned earlier on, it is struggling in many ways to grow, to scale, and that in part is reflective of market needs, not necessarily being recognized at the early stage of the development of that piece of innovation. But equally, I think from our experience, it's the regulatory environment that governments can create, which are essential for the scale up of agri-food innovations. The global debate, the OIC debate around genetic modification, genetic edited crops, the need for standardization of how we treat those products coming into the crop sector, as well as the provision of a regulatory environment which is conducive for investors to engage. I think one of the significant challenges private sector faces, whether it's corporate investors or whether it's the pension funds and the private equity investors, is there a clear route for this business, this product to scale and for me to make a return on my investment? And we hear time and time again that entrepreneurial small-scale businesses which have spun out successfully from academic institutions, they really struggle to get the significant scale-up investment into them, which enables them to move away from a dependency on government grants, from NGOs, from academic institution funding. And ultimately, it's often caused because that there isn't a clear regulatory environment in which those operations, those businesses to actually prosper in the region. And we talked earlier on around the need for there to be an alignment across the member states of development and regulatory conditions. So there is that cross development of products. There's these new products developing which can be not only grown or created in multiple territories, but equally sold, imported and exported between territories. So we replicate what happens already within the food system, where we know all of us are dependent on a global food system where everything is interconnected. And it doesn't take much for those interconnections to fail because of one component part. And the public sector, the governments, their role here is not just about helping seed the innovation through funding academic institutions or running innovation funds to help the startups, but it's to create a stable regulatory environment, a platform on which businesses can grow. I think my only other observation in all of this is maybe just to draw on some of our own experience here at Ferro Science. We're one of many good examples, certainly within the United Kingdom, where a government organization has gone through a commercialization role. We were a government agency back in 2015. We were commercialized, and we are now a public-private joint venture with the UK government. We are now a commercial business, very much a commercial contract research organization that is focused on the public good. So we work with the UK and other international governments around the world looking at agri-food and environmental issues. And we managed to balance that well with our commercial needs for our shareholders, but also with our desire to see agri-food develop as a significant and continued significant player in tech development, innovation, and entrepreneurship, as well as supporting corporates develop innovative products that help us grow more and feed the world's population. I think that kind of model works really well. And certainly when we see what we could do more, and organizations across the OIC member states like us who could do more, often it comes around not just asking for government money, which is always important, and to ensure that we can do that innovative research, but it's enabling those, we refer to them here as regulatory sandboxes here in the United Kingdom, which provide us with a space to develop a new product and bring it to market and prove the market viability at scale, to enable investors to come together alongside academic institutions, corporates. And I think one of the other panelists mentioned earlier on, that's really complicated. It's very difficult because often corporates and academics and all different types of corporates have different agendas. They're not normally predisposed to working in a sharing environment. But it is really positive when you see those consortiums develop, where you have organizations come together with a shared agenda, which is backed up by government support. And I do feel that the government support often is beneficial more in just enabling that consortium, enabling those new products come to market, whether it's new biopesticides or whether it's new biologies coming to market from the GMGE space, or whether it's in new forms of robotics. Enabling those to come together is a key play for government, and I assume that applies to all countries. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the really a detailed roadmap, actually. We need to, again, discuss it, and maybe we can include some of the solutions. We need to also get benefit of the experience that Dr. Saad is running on these issues, and he takes notes very nicely, and maybe he will go to summarize for us. Of course, please. Yeah,
Floor?
Yes, please.
Okay. Since yesterday, we're discussing technology, and from fertilizer to water to energy to light, everything. We have not said a word about GM crops. Today, almost 99% of the soybean in the market is GM.
Yes.
100% cotton is GM. Most of the corn grown in North America, excepting Europe, most of the corn is GM.
Mm-hmm.
And many other GM crops, and even rice, GM rice is now being pushed by IRRI itself. So what is the stand of OIC or IOFS on GM crops? I mean, we have to feed the people. And if GM crops are safer, if they consume, they avoid pesticide use, and the science is fully supported, then why we are not speaking about GM crops?
Prof, we have short of time, but I have very small comment on this. Since we started biotechnology, I was one of the team for developing the zucchini yellow mosaic virus resistant. And everyone was telling, don't eat GM crops. It contains DNA. And everything we are eating is DNA. And then it's remind me when I was standing on a queue to be injecting with the vaccines against COVID. I was standing and every very long queue and others here and there, and everyone wanted to be injected with the directly to the blood by a GM or by biotech. It's pure GM actually, how it's running in all our blood. So it means that the fears of science keep hunger. We have to use all agri-tech available. And now even with the new technology of developing this agri-biotech, it's very, very important. When we talk about that in Africa, they said, oh, you try to promote biotechnology for Africa. Okay, now we are all infected or maybe injected with this kind of things. It's a long story. We need to really clarify because we are definitely eating genetically enhanced crops as we are injected with the genetically generated vaccines. Dr. Saad, you can summarize for us, I know.
I will do my best. Actually, I've learned a lot today, and did try to do my best to put some points so we can all like revisit with, and hopefully we can take action. So we started by saying that we need to foster business-to-business partnership, government to government, and we have to like establish more what we call like special kind of investment collaboration across different bodies. And we need also to blend our resources in a way that we can allocate our resources wisely. Coordination and cooperation is essential, and strategic partnership and public awareness is also key. So we need also like to look at the problem, if you wish, or at the challenge from a perspective of the institutes where we need to have like more regulations, and our regulatory frameworks we might need to revisit with in a way that would foster like more collaboration and business partnerships. Entrepreneurship, this is also essential because we have to come up with products that is more competitive in the market, and we need for that innovative research. So we need to work closely with academia to direct the research work, as well as with the entrepreneurs to direct their work to solve the real problem. We have also to improve the market enablers. There have been some like discussion around this, but what's really needed, we have to come up with a multidisciplinary approach where all market enablers like been improved either through policy or like to be driven by outcome by research work. So again, we also have touched in this hour or a little bit less on how we can to some extent like government initiatives should take a place to support the agriculture innovation. So subsidies and government incentives are essential, but it should be directed towards the right like products. And we also have mentioned that there is a huge role for the agri-tech in transforming our food systems. So our food systems, like to some extent, they would require like more technological enhancement and like more products that utilize like artificial intelligence and all these like new technologies where data being utilized to enhance the decision making in the agriculture work. I hope that I kind of like cover most of what we have mentioned today.
Thank you.
And more, inshallah, will be also communicated through a special report that would be shared, inshallah, with everybody.
Please be sure that Brother Bakhijan also has this so we can circulate it also. In the end of the round table, I would like to ask to thank all of you coming physically and online, and we need to minimize the online because we got Zoom fatigue, all of us. We had used it for a very long time, but it's, and in the end, I would like to thank you once again and for all these valuable remarks, and we will move for the next session. Thank you. الله يعطيك العافية. Thank you, brother. Because of short of time, we will not have break. I will give very short presentation about Almaty Declaration. This is one, it works also. How it works, this technology? Yeah. So I have to, okay. So I will talk very briefly in maybe 2-3 minutes about the IOFS implementation of the Almaty Declaration. And I will give just an overview, what is Almaty Declaration, and about reservation of national resources, food safety, food security, education. And before talking about Almaty Declaration, just you have to know that Almaty, this photo from Almaty, it's a very nice city in the Republic of Kazakhstan. And it has a very nice mountains and and it is very big city also. So last year, in June 2022, we had the first high-level forum, which today is the second, and we have working together with eminent professors, and we got with a declaration about the naming the city of Almaty, and this is an overall. We have a commitment from the in IOFS to work closely with this 4 sectors, especially in gene banks, and how can we reserve the natural resources, even by plant or animal, food safety, food security, education. And actually, when we talk about the gene banks, we have to know that in OIC, the 57 member countries, they do not have one gene bank. I know that there is a call to have it in Kazakhstan. There is a call to have it in Faisalabad. When I visited Faisalabad last year, we discussed it with Professor Ikrar. And in the end, till now, in 2023, we don't have one OIC gene bank. And actually, the gene bank situation in our OIC member country is very varied, from very advanced, with few tens, thousands of accession, to very primitive. And this vast changing and capacity, they made us very, very worried. How can we start? So if we talk about reservation of natural resources, so the goal for us is to give hand-on training, and to give hand training in gene bank, it's need really even training. It's need a lot of resources and to mobilize a lot of resources. And we had the opportunity to use IFS generating funding for giving the hand-on training for the Francophone African countries to be trained in Tunisia for 1 week, and to get or maybe 10 days also, to get the principle of gene banks. Now we are talking with the ministries on the ministerial level for how can we mobilize and to start to establish their own gene bank. The second, the most important issues also is the Anglophones of African countries. They got the chance also via IFS with the funding of TICA, Turkish International Cooperation Agency, that to hosted 1 week to this training in Turkey Gene Bank, which is very advanced also. And the hand-on training also have to be arranged this year for Arab countries, and maybe we will doing this in cooperation with ICBA, which is the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture in Dubai, to also to train in the Arab countries. The training itself is very important, very nice, but we have to follow this up with the governmental and the policies, and to link it with the round tables that we have talking now. We have to go with the governments hand in hand and the technology transfer, and to really mobilizing, doing this in a way that we can do it in a proper way. OIC healthy and the safe food ecosystem, we have in IOFS from gene to fork modalities. And from gene to fork modalities that we have to have halal and the tayyib and the nutrition food for everyone. And this is on we had several activities actually, and we had one of them was in the university in Kastu in Asitana in the World Food Safety Day, and we brought together experts from Kazakhstan and the Sultanate of Oman, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Turkey, and Tajikistan under the theme of food standard safe lives. This will be focusing also. We are continuing actually working with member countries on this behalf, and we are now in IOFS moved also for food loss and food waste. The people also is now this is the current status. So we need a safe nutrition food, and also we need to decrease the food loss and the food waste. Actually, for food education, we have also started a very actually ambitious program. This one have been done in Asatana, June this year. And we have also a cooperation with Reforum, with African Reforum, which is a gathering of 300 plus universities in Africa and other countries. And we have to mobilizing also our member states to teaching and to be including the food security education. And we are discussing also everywhere, every time we are discussing that the importance of also focusing on the strategic commodities and how can we develop the strategic commodities in our member countries. This is also was using with the smart agriculture, which is using less water with the varieties that it can be drought tolerant and saline tolerant in cooperation with other institutions and universities. And actually, we are continuing. It is the Almaty Declaration now is part of IOFS program and the project developing action plan, which we will also continuing from this year to 2024, inshallah. And thank you very much for your listening to me for the end of the day. And I think we still have something regarding the closing. You? Okay, you have something. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ismail, for the productive roundtable. Thanks to Dr. Saad as well, and for the speakers of the roundtable. Now we will make the chairs of the 3 sessions. We'll make the session presentations, and we will start with the first session that was chaired by Dr. Abid Qayyum on good food farming and climate smart agriculture. Dr. Abid Qayyum, I'd like to invite you. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Very quickly, just to summarize what we discussed this morning. We had 7 very able panelists. 3 of them, they spoke about natural agriculture, organic farming, and use of microbes. The rest of the 4, they were talking of use of technology, energy efficiency, and safe food systems, and of course there were 2 representatives who were from private sector, who were giving the commercial examples of how these technologies they are available. Now, some of the key messages included this importance of sustainable agriculture and organic farming to meet our growing food requirement and to cope against climate change. And then, of course, climate resilient and climate smart agriculture with the use of technology. And for that, we had 4 wonderful case studies. We have a case study from Qatar, especially how to grow tomatoes in a climate smart setup, as well as the natural farming. We had Turkey's organic agriculture transformation, Then we have Oman's smart food safety system, and we have South Africa's microbial farming revolution. Now, among the session recommendations, there was a need was highlighted about developing climate resilient organic crop varieties, promoting climate adaptive advanced agri-tech, supporting crop diversification in IOFS countries, implementing agroecological approaches and strengthening agroforestry practices, supporting local and sustainable food systems, leveraging climate data for decision making, facilitating farmer-to-farmer knowledge exchange between IOFS member states, fostering public-private partnership, and then there are three which are not written on the slide, but I think they were part of discussion as well. One was setting up common standards for organic accreditation, organic certification. So setting some sort of IOFS standards so that IOFS member states, when they trade among themselves and between themselves, they can comply with those organic standards. Second was reappropriation of subsidies and public sector funding, which right now different governments, irrespective of their income level, are providing to their farmer, reappropriating those subsidies to promotion of climate smart agriculture and precision agriculture, technological agriculture. And the third one, which I would like the Director Zulfikar to take to General Council as well. I think we need to form IOFS member states think tank network. These think tanks, we have business-to-business relations, we have academia talking to each other and government-to-government, but this thinking community, the policy-making community, it's very vital that we have a network of think tanks working on food security, agriculture, and climate change, so that we can learn from each other's experience and we can promote this people-to-people contact for the promotion of sustainable food secure system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abid Qayyum. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Conrad Rain to sum up the second session presentation. Thank you. Dr. Conrad.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Okay. So we had a very interesting session, and I would like to thank the panelists a lot for their insights. To summarize in a nutshell, we learned that with advancements in technology, there's a significant potential to revolutionize water management in agriculture. So this can be summarized as a need for water-centric policy development and government-driven water tech initiatives. We need the private sector in water tech, and there's clearly a call to action that came out from the panel for OIC water tech collaborative platforms to champion new methods and collaborate on research and development. And we also, and I think this is really what we learned today and really important in general, we need case studies, success stories, or as we say here, real-world examples that offer a tangible blueprint for successful water management practices and drawing on the lessons that can guide us on the implementation of strategies in different OIC member states, reinforcing the need to prioritize water tech for sustainable agriculture. In a nutshell, we had, as I already said, a number of very exciting case studies that have been presented. There has been one on innovative water management with a focus on sustainable agriculture. There has been a very exciting case study from Turkey presenting a water monitoring and management system. And then another great example from Turkey, applying a dual platform approach, ensuring optimal water usage, enhancing agricultural productivity, and bolstering policies that uphold food security. An example from Jordan, a commercial aquaponics system that ensures a 100% pesticide-free approach. Then 2 case studies from Qatar, one that is harnessing produced water from gas fields to investigate the potential of produced water from gas fields as an alternative freshwater supply, and the other one, collected aquaculture wastewater from a farm, which basically is led to the conclusion that successful treatment leads to a generation of nutrition-rich, high-quality biomass from selected microalgae. And this brings us to the recommendations of the second session. The first one, water-centric policy development to formulate robust policies centered on water management technologies, ensuring they address both regional challenges and leverage opportunities. The second recommendation being government-driven water tech initiatives, promoting government initiatives that prioritize water management innovations, offering resources and support for research, development, and deployment of effective solutions. The importance of public-private partnerships being the third recommendation, collaborating with the private sector, especially technology and agricultural companies, to co-create sustainable water management solutions. The need for OIC water tech collaborative platforms, establishing platforms or forums within the OIC framework where member countries can collaborate on water tech solutions, share insights, and co-develop strategies for mutual benefit, really underlining this, the importance of coordination and exchange of information and working together. And the last recommendation being prioritize water tech for sustainable agriculture, emphasizing the development of water management technologies as a cornerstone of sustainable agricultural practices, ensuring efficient use and conservation of water resources, and investigate and invest in unconventional water sources. Thank you very much, and over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Conrad. And now I'd like to invite Excellency Professor Iqrar Ahmad Khan for the third session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had 2 panels in the third session in which there was discussion on some key areas followed by some case studies. The key areas were emerging technologies, particularly aiming at waste management through valorization of food byproducts, innovative lighting strategies for crop productivity enhancement and sustainability, revolutionizing crop management by use of IoTs, AIs, crop disease monitoring, AI-enabled SaaS for crop classification, mobile applications, weather, field productivity and DVI, fertilizer algorithms, and field income and expenses monitoring. Sustainable agriculture practices included introduction of agrovoltaic, oh, I had to do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sustainable agriculture policies practices included use of agrovoltaics in desert environments, biochar, using organic waste, treating organic waste at high temperature in the absence of oxygen and using that as soil amendment. And then strengthening capacity building and education of youth for the promotion of agriculture and greenhouses at school level. ICT platforms and solarized precision agriculture by using ICT e-platforms by the farmers, advocating agriculture through e-governance, land use management basically, and investing in AI-driven agriculture initiatives. So where is it next? Yeah, it's going. Okay, so the case studies, particularly one from Brazil, was very exciting that they had put red lights at the under the sprinkler irrigation systems, and thereby the yield gains up to 100%. Amazing. Physiologically, that makes sense because it creates light saturation and a better efficiency of chlorophyll transforming carbon dioxide into chemical energy. And also, it reduces water consumption while it captures carbon dioxide. From Pakistan, a very interesting study on detecting early detection of wheat rust through what is called as edge device. This can empower farmers for preparing early treatment of crop. This is also a very powerful tool for the plant breeders to select germ plants resistant to rust disease. Then from Egypt, we have heard, Egypt and Turkey, both we have heard e-governance tools as well as revolutionizing the management of agriculture through financial inclusion from planting all the way up to the market. And our case study from Qatar particularly was very interesting in the example of biochar, as well as using waste. It's a waste management, a solid waste management. Solid waste management is a huge challenge in most of the developing countries, and anything that could be converted into valuables. So to summarize the whole outcome of two sittings of this third session, it's just that we expand ICT platforms for empowering farmers and to educate them, adapt AI for local crop management, and within OIC countries create collaborations, incentivize sustainable farming like using biochar or carbon sequestration, develop policies to integrate agrovoltaic systems and use of scarce land resources, particularly where we are in arid zones. And then in food waste management and valorization, the byproducts, we have heard it time and again that we are wasting about 30% of our produce, and saving about half of that is enough to convert our current deficit into the surplus. And then foster the use of outdoor artificial lights, both in case of Brazilian example and the example that was suggested by Dr. Coker on the greenhouse, where he's using red light. And investment in solar energy for regenerative agriculture. And it was very well appreciated that we need to invest into youth for creating future farmers. Though it was not part of any discussion session, but if this House agrees, I would like to suggest that the GM crop discussion should be mentioned in the proceedings of this House, because agriculture is technology driven, and it is one of the best established technological intervention in which real science has gone into it. And there is also a lot of discussion in the morning session about biologicals and microbes. And nobody mentioned whether those microbes and biologicals are genetically modified or not. And most of the time they are. So without mentioning that those microbes are genetically modified, so everybody was extremely excited about microbes and biologicals, while we know that most of them are actually genetically modified microbes. And there is hardly any person who is not consuming genetically modified products. Professor Asmail mentioned the vaccine which all of us have taken during the last 2 years. They're all genetically modified vaccines now. And if it were not genetically modified vaccine, the COVID might have been still around. So it's an outstanding example of use of science in finding solutions. And in crops, in livestock, in biologicals which are being put to use for the productive enhancement, genetically modified genetical modification tools are actually scientifically established tools, but there is a lack of education. We are talking about educating youth. We should also be educating the public at large and the policymaker that what benefits lie in adopting those crops. There is a political economy of GM discussion. There's a component of power blocks, EU particularly, which is opposing GM crops. They can afford it. They can afford organic food, and there was a presentation on organic food, which is fine. Those of us who can afford, they must continue with that. But when it comes to feeding 10 billion people by 2050, the GM crops are going to be a very essential component of that. Scientifically, there is nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Iqrar Khan. Now, I'd like to invite Professor Zulfiqar Ali, Director of Programs and Projects Department of the IOFS, for the closing remarks. Professor Zulfiqar Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bakhjan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellency, distinguished experts and colleagues, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Although today it was very hectic, a long day, starting very early and too late, so we have reached to the conclusion, and it may provide that few of the points, and I will try to wind up quickly. So you have deliberated extensively on successful cases of introducing agricultural technologies and proposed ways how to scale up and implement in the OIC geography. All presentations, they are have been very interesting and reviewed various aspects of how we can adopt and transfer the technologies to make our food system more sustainable. Presentation also reiterated that the topics of agricultural innovation, water management technologies, climate smart agriculture, food industry technologies, policy interventions, they have the primary importance in the food security domain, as you all have discussed throughout this day. There are a few points from our side, from the Secretariat, that as we started working on that, and the team and the Secretariat remained engaged with all of you for the couple of weeks, and ultimately we have deliberated this today, yesterday, and in the coming we will be focusing tomorrow on the business enterprises, B2B and B2C as well. The important thing here, I want to stress that the role of the governments, that is important, which the Secretariat is looking at how we have to work with the governments in coordinating efforts among various stakeholders, including enterprises, the government officials, investors, experts, policymakers, and another important thing is the end users and the clients, farmers and the society. So all these, they have to drive the adoption of the agricultural technologies. Technologies are there, but how to adopt it, this is a question. Specifically, focusing on the advancing water management techniques and utilization of IoT devices to optimize farming practices and using, as Professor Ikrar have given this advice of genetic modification and AI-driven crop optimization. So these things, they can enhance the food production and address the unique challenges to the food security within the OIC nations, including the challenges which is posed by the climate changes. So IOFS is committed to work with the government member states how to make the environment conducive. So if these technologies, they are adopted, they are transferred to the member states, the first question comes, is the environment in the OIC member states is conducive? Is it enough transparent? Which the enterprises face difficulties in most of the OIC countries. So this is the important agenda next to us, the IOFS, how we can communicate with the member states to make the environment a level field for the enterprises to transfer these technologies and to be adopted over there. The focus in designing these policies are the frameworks that promote cost effectiveness and accessibility, allowing advancing the advanced agri-techs to become the norm rather than the exceptional. So although these are very innovative today we have seen, but can these be a normal? So many of farmers and many of the member states even participating these days and maybe sitting over here, they might feel that this is the exceptional case or this is the exception. Can we move from the exception to the normal and implement these technologies? The second important thing which the Secretariat has to work is with the financial institutions. Once the enterprises, they go and the member states, they provide the conducive environment from where the financial resources, they will be mobilized. So OIC, financial institutions, and the attraction for the private investor, this is also important. And this we will look at how to mobilize the resources. So coming back to the particularly to the experts, that, as I mentioned earlier, the team was working for the last 3-4 weeks or more, working with youth, and still we will not leave from today. We will have more communication in the coming weeks, particularly for the work to have the forum outcomes. Recommendation we will have now, and we will have proceedings of this event, 3-day event, and it will contain all the presentation, and we will make it available for the peoples. The Secretariat will draft each paper-based on these presentations and work closely with experts to finalize them and make it public. After finalizing and obtaining according to ISBN numbers, so we plan to publish the proceedings in a reputable, by the reputable publishers, and distribute among the participants and the member states for their interest. So, Excellencies, distinguished participants, praise and thanks to Allah. We had this successful day today, and let's meet tomorrow to talk more on the enterprise and businesses, how we can promote the intra-OIC trade, and how we can cut the net import of the OIC member states. So, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor. So we will move with the awarding certificates to speakers, and we will make the final group photo. For awarding certificates, I will like to invite Professor Zulfiqar Ali and my colleague, Mr. Abdulaziz Hajjaji. Mr. Abdel Al-Hajjaji will be announcing and giving you one by one and taking forest with speakers.
Yeah, it's better we have Excellency Professor Iqrar and he may give the certificates.
Sure.
You will announce the name? No, you will announce. You will announce. You take it. Okay. Sir, Professor Iqrar, please, for the certificates, we want to distribute the certificates.
Yeah. So, Dr. Erwan Jelet. It's not here. Okay. Dr. Carol Khadra. Dr. Gerard Koitzer. دكتور عابد قيوم. دكتور حرياتي منصور بليز. الدكتورة زينب الكندي. مستر محمد إردوغدو. دكتور كونراد رين. مستر محمد مناج. دكتور رجب Alugos. Rajab is not here. Okay. Dr. Sitoglu, Butuan. دكتور مجيد داخلي. Professor. Dr. Mark Wilders, yeah, please. Mr. Silzuk, Césaire Silzuk. Not here. Dr. Saad Daragmeh. Dr. Rafia Mumtaz. She's not here. Dr. Probir Das. Also is not here. Dr. Saad Abd Halim Shannaq. سعد عبد الحليم. Mr. Tasiaka. So he's not there. It's okay. Thank you.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we just close this today's sessions and see you tomorrow morning again here for tomorrow's session. Thank you very much.